Okay, can you hear me now, folks? I have no idea what is going on here. Okay, yes, I know there's no sound. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Okay, can you hear me now, folks? Please tell me in the chat. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, so we have sound. Okay, good. All right, audio, no video. Yes, I know it's because I turned the camera off whilst I was trying to figure out what was going on there. Okay, you should be able to see me now because I've turned the camera back on. This is a great start to the show. Sorry about that. It would appear that OBS had updated, and when it updated, it decided to completely erase all of my settings. So I'm just going to go and check and make sure that everything else is set correctly. Filters, expanders on. Okay, good. Okay, now you've got video. Good. Okay, the new theme tune. I did actually play the new theme tune, but of course you wouldn't have heard it because there was no sound going out to YouTube. So I will play it again. Right, let's start the show again. Ready? Here we go. Take 2. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Sunday Night Live with me, Jonny Lipsham, at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk in Edinburgh, in Scotland, in the glorious United Kingdom. So hopefully now we have that all sorted out. And yes, Mike, you're absolutely right. We talked about stuff updating and how it likes to reset everything. Well, you know what? That's the first time I've updated OBS and it has completely erased all of my settings, which is most annoying because I didn't expect that. So when I pressed start on the stream, I expected there to be audio because there usually is. And, you know, there's a lesson there, isn't there? And that is, and I talk about this all the time. Assumption is the mother of all foul-ups. And I assumed that there would be audio. And, of course, because I assumed, it fouled up. So there we go. And yes, that is my new theme song for the show. And I wrote that way back in 1987 when I was 12 years old. For the band that I was in at the time. Yes, I was 12 years old and I was playing in a jazz group. And this is one of the tunes that I wrote. And it's called Flip Flops. And it's kind of, it uses the AABA song form and is based on the chord changes to Gershwin's I Got Rhythm. So there you go. Just Bob says, seems like an early 1970s theme song for a variety show, but pretty cool tune. Yeah. It's funny. I mean, shows, TV, like talk shows and that kind of thing, used a lot of kind of jazz or jazz-orientated songs for their themes. And I suppose my show should be no exception, should it really? I usually play something that's about 5 minutes long, and I thought, maybe my theme, my opening music is maybe a little bit too long. So I decided that maybe I should try something that's under a minute long. And that's that. So Bobby Booth says, Under Siege 2, that is not what he says. Yes, I know. I know he uses other words, Bobby, which I'm not going to use. But you're absolutely right. That is an Under Siege 2 quote. Not exactly a great movie. It's okay. It's Steven Seagal, and he saves the day and all of that. And there are bad guys in it, and there's lots of shooting and jiu-jitsu and kickboxing and that kind of stuff. But it's otherwise a bit rubbish, really. But anyway, this is not a movie review show. This is Sunday Night Live, where we talk all things audio, and I have some fun things to show you tonight. In fact, I have two fun things. I think it was last week or the week before, I talked about a mic that I had been given, which is the Red Audio 5 RV6 mic, and I said that I was going to experiment with it and give it a try and see what it's like. So I have been doing that, and I have it plugged in to another input, and we're going to see, even with all of the audio problems we had at the start of the show, I'm going to see if you guys can hear it and see what you think of it. So we will do that. We're also going to take a look at the PreSonus audio batch converter, which is very, very cool. I have played with it a wee bit and had a look at it, and it looks pretty cool, I have to say. And so I've basically just dragged in a few bits and pieces into the audio batch converter, and we're going to have a look at kind of things that it might or might not do, and some of the stuff that it can do and is very useful for. So we'll have a look at that as well. So how is everybody? I hope everybody is good. How many people do we have in? So far we've got 21. Wow. That's pretty awesome. 21 people here already, and we're just getting going. I apologize for the audio foul-ups at the start there, folks. Mike and I had been talking about Windows 10 and a few other pieces of software that when they update themselves, or they are updated, we update them, they like to completely forget about all of the settings we had before and start again. But they don't tell you that they're going to do that. So that's exactly what OBS has done to me. I'm amazed that the expander is still on here. I thought actually for a minute there that I was going to have to dial that in again, and hopefully I won't have to. So hopefully the quality of the audio we have here is pretty good, and that there's no nasty hiss or room tones or anything like that. So let's see. Mike says the first one is better. Yes, the first Under Siege was great. They should have stayed there and not thought, hey, let's do another one. And make it worse, which is what they did. And I'm glad they didn't make a third one. Let's just say that. Let's see. Kyle is here. It says, did live sound for my favorite local band on Saturday and will again on Thursday. Awesome! When you get to run sound for your favorite band, that is a very, very cool thing. All right, let's see who we can have here. Martin Weeks was the first through the door, quoting. I forget the title of that song, Martin. You're gonna have to remind me what it is. It's 2:45. There's no one in this place. It's just you and me. So set 'em up, Joe. I got a little story I think you should know. Yeah. It's from a musical. And I have played in the pit band for that musical, but it was years ago. It was like 25, 26 years ago. So I don't remember what that's called. Let's see. Who else do we have here? Martin Weeks says, wow, new theme. The Sounds of Silence. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. You guys couldn't hear it. No sound, no sound, no sound. Can't hear it. No sound. Don't hear anything. No sound, no sound, no sound. Kyle, that's hilarious. It's the red button. Push the red button. Thank you. And we finally got there with all of that. And Lollipop Guild is here as well. Thomas is here. And he posted a pretty little piano icon, which is very cool. There should, let's see, what else do we have here? Bobby Booth is here. No show is complete without Bobby Booth. So let's get a little bit further down. Bobby says, I heard that the 1903 version messes up the computer. I know some people who on certain incarnations of Windows 10 have had to go back and re-optimize their computer for audio. Yeah, that kind of like does not fill me with a lot of confidence to upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 10, which I'm going to have to do because, you know, I test a lot of gear and a lot of software, and Windows 7 is going into retirement. So according to the guys at Microsoft, that's going to happen in January. So I'm pretty much being forced into doing it, to be honest, if I want to carry on doing what I'm doing. So those kind of stories do not inspire great confidence in me to go, yes, let's go and upgrade and get Windows 10 and get going with it. It just doesn't inspire me with confidence particularly, because I don't want to have to optimize my computer for audio every time there's a darn update. I've never had to do it because my computer was already done, because it's a pro audio computer. I really don't have to do that all over again. So David SJ says, depends on the computer. Older hardware is not reacting well to 1903. Well, that's interesting you should say that, David, because my computer is a 2014 computer. But from what the guys at the company that built my computer have told me, they told me that when they built it, all the hardware was tested for Windows 10 compatibility as well. And I spoke to them. I said, look, I'm obviously going to have to upgrade to Windows 10. Is all the hardware inside the computer okay for that? And they said yes. So, to be honest, the fact that they said yes, it's on them if it goes south and doesn't work. So, even though it is outside of warranty. Mike says you can stop the updates with 1903. Well, that's good to know. I am intending to get Windows 10 Professional because you have a lot more control over things like the updates and when they happen. You know, kind of like Windows 7, because with Windows 7 you can pretty much you can set it so that it tells you there's an update ready for you, and when I get some downtime, I go and get the updates and I install them. But you know, the stories I've heard about Windows 10 is that it would just do it when it feels like it. So, but Windows 10 Pro apparently doesn't do that, which is good to know. Mike says mine is 2014 Adele. Yes, yours is Adele, isn't it? Yeah, mine is custom built by this pro audio company. So anyway, enough natter about computers and stuff. Let's get into what we're here for, which is audio. So I am going to go and get the good old batch converter open first, so you guys can have a wee look at what it looks like. I need to press that screen, and there we go. Steve Lath is here. He says, hi guys, just popping in to say hello and give Johnny a like. Thank you very much, Steve. Your support and your encouragement is greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. So that's very cool. Thank you, mate. David says 1903 is installed through the Windows Update screen in settings and will not install automatically. Good to know. Good to know. And Mike is just echoing that, which is cool. Okay, so you guys should now be looking at the PreSonus Audio Batch Converter. Now, the cool thing about this, this is an add-on to Studio One. So even if you are not a Studio One user, you can go and get yourself Studio One Prime, the free version of Studio One, and you can use this because this guy is compatible with all versions of Studio One, so Prime, Artist, and Professional. You don't have to be on the professional version or the artist version, you don't have to pay out to get this, other than to pay for the audio batch converter itself, which is $50 at the moment, I think it is, in the Persona shop. So, so other than that, you can just get Studio One Prime and just get this guy, and this guy is only $50 ish, and you've got the free version of Studio One, which you don't even have to touch if you really don't want to, and you can convert all your files. So now that we're looking at it, let's see what you can do with this guy and what it's all about. So what it is about fundamentally is taking source material and converting them in a variety of different ways and spitting out result files. So there are batch convert software that you can get that is a lot more expensive than the $50 that you pay for this one. But this one is, I think, just as powerful and just as good. You have the source up here and the result files, and then you have this process rack. And the process rack is very, very cool. You've got some rack presets in here, which I haven't opened. And then you've got these format options, so you can extract a selection. And what this does is this just trims the audio file to a specific section or a specific length that you want it to be. You can join all input files sequentially. You can merge, you can create stereo file from mono files. So let's say you've received audio tracks from another DAW like Logic or Pro Tools, and it's a recording of a piano, let's say, and they've sent it to you as, left, right, and then ambient mics, maybe. Maybe you've got like 4 or 5 different piano tracks there. Now, what you can do to save yourself some real estate is you can create a stereo file from those mono files. So those mono mics, you would put them in your sources section here, and then you would use this guy. You just drag merge mono files into the process rack, and then you hit process, and then it would spit them out into this results file thing here. So you should now then get those 5 mono tracks into a stereo file, which you can then import into Studio One. Let's say that's what you want to do. Let's say that's what you want to do. Not everybody would want to do that, but let's say you decide that you want to have the piano, you want to process the piano as a stereo thing, and instead of having all 5 of your piano tracks sent to a bus and then doing the bus processing, and thereby having and thereby having 5 tracks in your mixer view, which to some people that might take up real estate that they don't want. So this is definitely a way of reducing that down, so you have a stereo file for those kind of things. But you can also do it the other way. Split multi-channel files, create mono files from a stereo file. So you could have a stereo file that's got let's say you've got acoustic guitar recorded in stereo with a stereo match pair of mics that have recorded it, and you've been sent it as a stereo file, and you decide, hey, maybe I might want to treat the two mics independently. Well, you can do that by splitting them out. So create mono files from the stereo file. So you would just put your stereo guitar track up here, and then you drag this over, and then you hit process, and you get your mono files there. But you can also change the type as well, and the resolution, and the sample rate, and all that. And you can append the process info to that as well. So it's really, really powerful, and you can have it send it back to the source folder, or you can choose a different location. It doesn't have to go to the output. You can put it somewhere completely different. And you can always, you've got this little player as well, and it shows you the chain here as well. So you've got your apply processes, in process, rack, and playback. So you can listen to to the audio files with and without what's going on in here. Okay, so that's the formatting that you can do. You can also do some repairing, so you can remove clicks and pops from an audio track that you've been sent. I've had a few audio tracks where I've had to use a different piece of software, and would dearly have loved this to have been around a year or two ago. So that's dead easy. So you just put your source file in here, drag that on there, process, off it goes, done. And it removes all the clicks and pops, which is very, very cool. You can invert the phase. You can remove DC offset. You can replace sample rate information. So for example, if you've received something in 48K from another DAW, and you want those files to be drilled down to 44.1 because you want to work in 44.1 because that's what your interface operates at. So you have Studio One operating at 44.1, but somebody sent you 96K files or whatever. You put those files in here, you drag this across, bingo, done. And it changes the sample rate, which is very cool. Then you got some volumes, so you can put fades in, fade out, gain. So if you've got really, really quiet tracks, you can gain them up. You can also normalize, and you can normalize to EBUR 128, which is very, very cool. And then, of course, you've got the effects as well. So you've got all your PreSonus effects here as well. You can use all of these guys. So pretty much anything that you have in Studio One, you can use to apply to your batch conversion process. So let's say you want to compress, and you want to repair the sample rate, and you want to split into mono files. You can do that. You just drag them all into this effects rack, and what will happen is the source file will be processed through this effects rack and then outputted according to these options here into your results file section here. And you can play these guys, and you can play these guys, and you compare the two. And the cool thing about this is it's all completely non-destructive, which is great, in my opinion. So your original files don't get destroyed. So if you really do mess it up, you can just remove it, but you will have to start the process again. You can't just go and fix something. Oh, I've maybe overdone that, and then go and fix it. No, you can't do that. What you have to do is you have to start the process over again, bring the original source file back in, go through the whole shebang again. But that's the nature of batch conversion. That's how that works. So you've got all your delays there, your distortion, any dynamics that you want to apply to it. Tone generator, you've got some mastering ones there as well. You've got a few mixing ones available there, like the Pro EQ VT1. But notice not all of what you would normally have in Studio One is available in the audio batch converter. Some are available, some aren't. Let's see, modulation. So you could apply flange or whatever. Reverbs. And then some VST2 ones. So I've got repeater there. I've got reactor 5. And then I've got some of my third-party ones as well. So I could run everything through a tape machine if I want to. Through the VTM or the J37. Let's see what else we got. Oh, didn't mean to do that. And I can DS. So if I've got a really sibilant bunch of voiceover tracks by the same artist, I can bring all of those in, and I can treat them all with the same de-esser and clean them all up before I bring them into Studio One. So that's kind of how that works, guys. So there you go. That's the audio batch converter. As I say, it's a wonderfully powerful thing, in my opinion. So I'm going to show you how I can split. I'm I'm actually going to remove all of these. Oh, didn't want to do that. I'm going to remove all of these just for now. So I'm going to remove selected. I'm going to go to files because I've got some other files that I would like to bring in if I can find them on this drive over here. Let's see, not in there, got to be in here. Let's see if I can find it. I've got some piano tracks that are stereo. And I've got some Hammond tracks as well. So let's see, let's try this one. There we go, there we go. We got a stereo piano track here that sounds like this. All right, so there you go. So let's say we bring this in and we decide that we want to, let's see, format. Let's say we decide we want to split this into multi-channels. So we want to create mono files from this single stereo file. So then I just drag that into there. And let's see. I want to keep this as a WAV file. 16-bit, I'll keep everything the same. Mono channels. And I'll even do that as well. And I won't do that. I will put this on my desktop. Is what I'll do. Alrighty. So this is going to go, this piano track is going to go to my desktop. And we're going to go process. And there we are, done. It's as quick as that. Mostly because it's a really short piece of audio. But generally speaking, this processes audio extremely quickly. So there we go. So now we've got my two audio tracks. So there's my left. And there's my right. And there you go. That is how you do it. And you can do that with, so there I've just split out stereo files to mono. And you can, as I say, you can do the reverse. You can make, you can do it the other way as well. All right, so there we go. We've taken up quite a lot of time on the batch converter, but I thought I'd give you guys a whistle-stop tour over how it works. It might not be for everybody, but if you are somebody that works with a lot of files that you need to repair or you need to process before you get them into Studio One for mixing, you know, if everything is at a completely different sample rate, you can do all of that. So you can change the sample rate. So I could have changed this to anything here. I could have changed this to 48K if I wanted to. I decided to keep it, but you can change it, and it would have processed it up to 48K or whatever I wanted it to be at. So there you go. I hope that is helpful for everybody, and I'm going to flip over to the song page there. And so I've had Studio One open the whole time. They are not separate. They kind of run either side by side, I would say. So you get access to it. Once you've purchased it and you've downloaded it and you've installed it, it basically shows up here next to your SoundCloud little icon. You've got the batch converter icon here. And you can switch between the batch converter and your song page. Just like that. Dead easy. So bringing stuff in is a real cinch once you've batch processed them. All right, so I hope that helps everybody. And we're going to go back over here. And we're going to see what the chat is all about. We are holding steady around about 24, 25 people, which is pretty cool. And I'm going to go and catch up with the chat because I've not been looking at the chat. Let's see. You guys are just chit-chatting by the look of it. Which is cool. Let's see. Are there any questions on the ABC, the audio batch converter? I'm just having a look to see if there are. Mike says the batch converter is very cool. I don't think it's necessary for me just yet. Yeah, it may well. We've been misbehaving. So I've been seeing. I've been seeing you guys have been misbehaving and chatting away. Now, see, if this was a regular classroom in a high school, and I used to be a high school music teacher, if you guys were chatting at the back, I would have been pretty stern in my rebuke of the lot of you for chatting and ignoring my demonstration of the audio batch converter. And I might have even said, okay, so talk me through the audio batch converter. Talk me through what I've just said. I'm not going to do that tonight. But, in a classroom situation, I probably would have done that. Ken asks, do you know if this is an intro price or sale price? For the ABC, the batch converter, I think it is just the price. I think. Do not quote me on that because that may change. As I would say, pretty much all pricing at Presonus in the Presonus shop are subject to change for any reason. Some things might be discounted, some things might not be. Some prices might go up. So don't quote me. As it stands at this moment in time, it is $50, I think. We can always go and take a look at the Presonus shop and we can double check for ourselves, which I'm just about to do. Let's see, let's go to the shop and let's see if I can find it. It's not easy to find because there's been a whole bunch of things that have been added recently. So I'm going to see if I can find, here we go, audio batch converter. Bingo. According to British prices, UK prices, it is £44.95. And we can fairly easily work that out. Just tap that price into a quick converter. I think if you just type pound to dollar in Google, it'll give you a wee little converter, and you can just put $44.95 in the pound bit, and it should spit out what that is in dollars at the current exchange rate, which is very cool. So that's the price at the moment, and it doesn't say anything. I'm looking at this, and you can't see it. It doesn't say anything here about it being a sale price. So I think this is actually probably just the price. We can go take a look in a little bit more detail. Wave is supported. AIFF, FLAC, OGG Vorbis, CAF, M4A, MP3. And there's a really cool little audio batch converter user guide. So if you're not sure how it works, the guide is actually really, really good. I have actually looked at it. So yeah, it's well worth a wee look. And you can always decide that it's not really for you. Now, if you want to see a more detailed video on the audio batch converter, I would absolutely wholeheartedly recommend my very good friend Marcus Huskin's video. He has done an outstanding video on the audio batch converter. In fact, on the Studio One 4.5 launch day, he was with the guys at Baton Rouge, and he took us through the audio batch converter very quickly in about 2.5 minutes. Whistle stop tour. And he did a great job. He is an extremely good communicator. So it is very, very well worth watching his video on the audio batch converter, and you'll see a lot more detail than I have the time to go through here. I may well make some more detailed videos on it in the next week or so. But yeah. That would be that. Mike says Marcus is great. Yes, he most certainly is. She Studio says it's $49 in the US, I think. Yeah, that sounds about right, because our exchange rate is almost parity with the dollar at the moment, which is a bit of a shocker. And Mike has very helpfully put the link in as well to the chat, so you can go and have a look at that, guys, if you're interested in it. Mike says, JL would have been throwing stuff. No, if I wouldn't have been throwing stuff in my classroom, you disruptive lot at the back there, I would have rebuked you sharply in front of the whole class. And then if that didn't stop you, I would have said, right, out into the corridor. And believe me, I did those kind of things, folks. But there you go. Anyone got any other questions on the audio batch converter before we give the other microphone a wee test and see if you guys, A, first of all, can hear it, and B, what you guys think of it? Sheila says Mike is the one that's misbehaving. Yes. Greg Thomas is here. He says, I slept in. Hi, everyone. Well, welcome, Greg. Glad to have you with us. Check the replay, and we've just done a whistle-stop overview tour of the audio batch converter. If that's something that interests you, then definitely check the replay out. All right, so while time is ticking on, let's go and get this other mic, which I have now plugged in to the interface. So let's turn it up. And let's, of course, move away from this mic so that we can compare and contrast. So hopefully now you can hear me on this one. Oh, yes, we do have audio. It's a little bit quieter, isn't it? Let's see if I can fix that. And yes, it does have this horrible thing on it, but that's more... That's more to do with not having all the P's and B's coming back. But yeah, I can take it off. Like that. And immediately we have a little bit of a louder signal, which is pretty cool. But obviously we're getting a lot more P, and yeah, there we go. I just overloaded it by going P. So there we go. I'll put that over there just for now. So yeah, it has a built-in high-pass filter, which if I switch like that, now a lot of the low end should have gone out of this, but it does go quiet. Red mic lacking low end. Yeah, I've heard that as well. And it is very quiet. I am actually having to get up very, very close to it, almost like one of those microphones that you see sports announcers and commentators using. Those ones are called lip mics. But this one I have to be almost right on top of to get any kind of quality of signal, which is annoying because, well, it's just annoying. Because, ideally I want to be about this far away when I'm speaking into it, which is about the same distance I am with the Rode, I'm not that on top of it, but I'm having to be right on top of it for this, so I don't know what the story is there. If I take off the high-pass filter, it gets a little bit louder, I think. Yeah, Bobby says not worth it. Yes, I'm sure it wasn't worth it at all. But it was something that I thought I had to try and see what you guys think of it, because I did promise you, I did say, hey, we'll try it out and we'll see what it's like. The high-pass filter certainly seems to knock off a whole bunch of gain. It's not just that it knocks off low end, it seems to make it go really quiet as well, which is very annoying. But there we go. That's this mic. I'll switch back over to the Rode mic now. Maybe we could A/B actually. Hang on. So this is me talking into the Rode mic, and this is me talking into the Red 5. let's see what you guys think are the distinctive differences. Now, I know that over YouTube, it's going to be, it's not going to be obvious. It's not going to be easy to tell, maybe, some of the subtleties. But so that's the Red 5 mic, and this is the Rode NT1. You guys are posting and then deleting your posts. David says the Rode has much more body and overall presence. A mic like the Red is useful on sources you would want to control low-end resonance, but the Rode is an overall better mic. Yes, I agree. Built-in preamp might be iffy. Yes, it could well be. Mike says, I think it was only an $80 mic to begin with. Yep. It's a cheapie. Not all budget mics are gold. Yes, I would agree with that, and I don't think this is a gold. I really don't. I haven't actually recorded it into Studio One yet to see, but I think I will. I think I'll actually do a proper recording into Studio One and have a listen. Now, the other thing that we should note is that this may not be an entirely fair test, and the reason why I say that is because I have a really good quality mic cable for the Rode mic, whereas with this, it's a bit of a cheap and nasty $10 cable. So, that's probably going to not help either. But I agree that the Rode is definitely a better mic. So I'll stay on that now, I think, and I'll turn this one off. Kyle says, slap it on a kick drum. Now, there's a good idea. Why not? Mike says, Silver, it may work better on other sources. Yeah, I don't think this is a vocal mic. And it's certainly not a voiceover mic either. Whereas the Rode NT1A is a good vocal mic. It's, it captures a lot of sources really, really well. It's a good broad use microphone. Whereas this probably, I could maybe put this in front of a guitar amp. I could maybe put this in front of a trumpet, or a saxophone, and a kick drum. I think those are the kind of sources that probably this would work best on, rather than a human voice. So there we go. That is the Red mic, and I've now unplugged the Red cable from the Red mic. There you go. Red cable, Red mic. And that's going to sit over there. So we are down to the last 10 minutes. So basically, we're now just going to go into a Q&A section, and I'll take all of your questions on pretty much anything to do with recording, mixing, mastering, songwriting, arranging, composing, whatever questions you got, guys. Just Bob says off center on a bass amp. Yeah, that would be good. Samson CO1 is a great mic. It most certainly is. My dad has one. He picked up his from a car boot sale, and the guy had no idea what it was. He just said, "Yeah, cheap mic. I'll let you have it for £10, which is about $15." So he got the Samson CO1 for $15, and it's great. He also has the Aston Spirit, which he's just bought, and he's been using that to record his acoustic guitars. He has like 5 or 6 acoustic guitars, and because that's his specialty is acoustic music. So we're working on his EP at the moment. And so we were in here, and I used the Rode NT1 and I used the Aston Spirit to record his acoustic guitar. And the combination of the two mics just sounded epic. Sounded really, really great. The Spirit is a fantastic microphone. It's a little bit more expensive than the other Aston mic, which is the Aston Origin. But again, if you're after a really good budget mic, you cannot go wrong, I think, with something like the Samson CO1, the Aston Origin, or the Rode NT1A. You just can't go wrong with either of those kind of mics. Or the Lewitt 240. Lewitt C240 is another really good budget mic. Let's see. What other questions do we have? What is a good mic for recording toms? Great question. I personally use dynamic mics on drums, just because I have a whole bunch more control. I know some people would use maybe a condenser mic over the two rack toms if you have two rack toms. Some people would use like a couple of condenser mics. That's not really my thing. I would use condenser mics for overheads, but generally I'd use dynamics on toms. SM57s would do a great job. You can maybe use the Sennheisers or the AKG drum set mic pack, which is actually very, very good. My church used the AKG set, which is what I recommended they get, and they use those, and they sound really, really good. For kick drum, you can go no wrong with something like the Shure Beta 52. That's a great kick drum mic. Or you could chuck that red mic in there, I suppose. Let's see. Ken says, saw a video today about getting mixed ready to master, and the guy said you should never have any plugins or a limiter on your mix bus. Do you agree? I kind of do and I kind of don't. I like to compress, and I like to do a little bit of EQ on the mix bus, and I like to do some tape saturation. But when I'm sending it for mastering, or I am going to do the mastering, whichever it is, if I'm sending it to mastering, I never put a limiter on it. Now, some people would put a limiter on it because, some people would put a limiter on it because they go, oh, I don't want to send this off if there are overs, like if it clips a little bit. Well, you know what? If it's clipping a little bit, just bring everything down a couple of dB. Just bring everything down 3 dB, and you'll not clip. And then you can send that off for mastering. If it's a little bit quiet, that's okay. A mastering engineer can turn it up. It's not a big deal. So yeah, I really don't think you should limit if you're sending it off to mastering. So that part of that statement I do agree with. But as to not using any mix bus processing at all, no, I don't subscribe to that point of view. Especially as I am one of those that does top-down mixing. So I start at the mix bus and work my way backwards. So if the mastering engineer says, get rid of all your mix bus processing, well, I'm just like, okay, but that's where my mix starts. So no, I won't be doing that. To be honest. Mike says, yes, I will not mix anything with processing on it. Don't send it. I don't want your processing. Yeah, when it comes to receiving stuff to mix that has already got some EQ and compression on it, I don't have a problem with that. I really don't have a problem with that, because some of that might actually be the shaping of the tone on the way in at recording. So those kind of things are meant to be printed to the track. A lot of recording engineers, that's how they work. A lot of mixing engineers prefer it that way. Warren Hewitt, my good friend and fellow countryman who has been living in LA for, I think, 25 years or so. When he records with EQ and compression on the way in. It's all part of shaping the tone going into the mixing process. Now, here's the thing. if it's done well, that means you don't have to do a lot in the mixing process. You're just kind of, all you're doing now is just balancing the faders and panning things, which is great because then it means your mix doesn't take you very long to do. You're not having to mess about with doing a lot of processing to try and make things right. If it's recorded well with a good mic and it's a great performance in front of that great mic, and there's a little bit of EQ to shape the tone of that, and there's a little bit of compression to give it some color and to give it a little bit of control, that's okay. Means I have less to do as a mix engineer. My job then is about sweetening the performances. My job then is about making sure that all the elements are heard when they should be heard, and making sure that there is, front and back and sides across the whole mix. So that would be my view. I'm okay if there is some EQ and compression on the tracks that are sent to me. When I'm not okay with that is when that is done badly. And I've received tracks where it has been done really badly. And, there was a record I did a couple of years ago. And there was one song where it had a piano track. And the piano track was horribly overcompressed. Like, it pumped every time the piano player, every time the piano player played a chord, it was just like you could hear the compressor go bam onto the piano and slam that sound down, and then slowly release it back up. You could hear it, all of that go on, and I was just like, great. There's nothing I can do about that. I can't deal with that. So I had to go back to the producer of this particular record and say, look, that piano part needs done again because, there's way too much compression on the way in. Just go re-record that piano part. And that's what they did. And they sent me a better piano take, which sounded so much better and actually didn't have hardly any compression on it at all, actually. And so it worked a lot better. Ken said, I think he was more concerned about users over-compressing or not having enough headroom. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. If you don't know what you're doing, take it off. If you don't know what you're doing at the mix bus level, take it off. If you when you're on the mix bus, you're talking about subtleties. You're talking like a little 1 dB lift here, a little 1 dB cut here. A tiny little bit of compression that's just tapping the needle of the compressor. That's really all you're talking about on the mix bus. So yeah, you don't need to be like doing 4 or 5 dB of compression, and you don't need to be like having massive, 3 or 4 dB cuts and boosts. If you're having to do that, then there's something wrong with the song that you've been sent, to be honest. So yeah, I agree with that part. David says, you're sending a stereo track for mastering, so what would it matter unless you're sending in your multi-tracks? Well, it would matter. It would matter. Because, if the processing at the mix bus is heavy-handed, then you're going to be sending off that to a mastering engineer. You're going to be sending them something that is heavy-handed, EQ-wise or compression-wise. If it's over-compressed, if there's too much compression going on, what is the mastering engineer going to do with that? There's not a lot you can do to fix over-compression. You can maybe try and rescue the EQ, but you can't really do a whole lot to fix the compression if there's too much. So, yeah. Bobby says, I usually put an EQ on it and a compressor, but I'm usually mastering when I use them. Okay, that's cool. Mike says, a good recording is 80% of any mix. I'm not saying don't get a good capture. I'm saying leave post-production processing off. That is my point. Okay, I got you. Especially any limiting. Yes. if you're the mastering engineer, you definitely probably don't want limiting on whatever is being sent to you. The only time I use a limiter is when I'm sending a draft mix to a client for their review. That's the only time I will do it. And the reason I do it is because I want them to be able to A/B my mix with their reference track that they are using for shaping the overall sound of their record. So if what I'm sending to them doesn't have a limiter on it and is therefore quieter, it's going to be hard for them to A/B it, and they won't have a fair comparison. So their judgment will be clouded by that, and they will think that my quieter mix sounds rubbish compared to the much louder mixed and mastered reference track that they're using. So that would be the only time that I would use a limiter when I'm mixing. I otherwise don't use them. I just don't. How do I avoid clipping my mix bus? Very simple. I don't mix loud. I just don't mix loud. I have everything set so that what is coming out of my speakers is quiet enough that I can hold a conversation with either my kids or my wife when they walk into the room, if they walk into the room whilst I'm working. Most of the time they don't, but if they do, I can talk to my wife and I can still hear the music, and the music's not so loud that we're having to talk over it. So I have everything set on my monitor station over here that makes that happen, that controls that aspect of it. And so my mix bus doesn't peak anywhere near 0 dB. Never done it. So I therefore never have to worry about clipping the mix bus. So therefore I never need to put a limiter on there. And to be honest, putting a limiter on there to stop clipping is silly, my opinion. Rather than using the limiter to, tap down those peaks, just go deal with the peaks. Don't use the limiter to do that. Do it yourself. Deal with your peaks. Find out what's causing those peaks. Dial that down. It might be an errant snare drum hit, just like 4 or 5 dB louder than all the others. Go deal with those. That would be my opinion. Mike says, minus 6 dB headroom max. I prefer minus 10. I'll turn it up in mastering. Yep, absolutely. Just Bob says, wish there was a VST that blows out over compression and fills the sound back in, kind of like reverse engineering. Yeah, I think that would be very cool, but I think the problem with that is that it would be very hard to reverse engineer because there are too many variables. So yeah, I think that might be too hard. David says, if I'm rendering a mix for checking on other systems, I'll put a limiter on it to boost, but that's very mild, almost no gain reduction. Yes, I agree. That's exactly what I do. If I'm using it if I'm doing the car speaker trick, which I don't really do, because I have other sources that do that same job that are in the studio. I don't need to go out to the car. But if I was to do that kind of thing, then yes, I would want to print something that is that commercial LUFS level, so that when I go out to the car, it's not really, really quiet. It's at the same level as what radio output would be. And to make sure that that's right, I will A/B between listening to the radio and listening to my mix. Because what sounds good on the radio in the car, if my mix is in that kind of ballpark, then I know that I'm onto a winner. But I'll also check it against a pair of $1 earbuds, a pair of crappy $3 tiny little cube speakers that are about this big. I've got a set of those. They are in my what I call my quality assurance chain. And of course these guys. And I've got another more expensive pair of noise cancelling earbuds. So all of those are in my chain. So I need to make sure that the volume level's going throughout that quality assurance chain are exactly the same. A limiter helps me do that. But that's it. Bobby has an excellent point here. If you do a mix well, you shouldn't need to do very much in the mastering. Absolutely. And I was watching a video by another British mastering engineer, not my good friend Ian Shepherd, but another guy. And he said pretty much exactly the same thing. He says his job as a mixing engineer, as a mastering engineer, is to get the level up to that commercial level. That's, he's just like, that's my job. He says I do a tiny little bit of sweetening, but the majority of his job as mastering engineer is just to get it at that level. And that's what he does. He's a professional mastering engineer. He's been doing it for 20 years, 25 years. And that he churns out, I don't know, 4 or 5 masters a day. Doing that, I think. So yeah, mastering should be as much as we all call mastering the dark arts because it's mysterious, and yes, it is a little bit mysterious, but a lot of it is kind of like it's just the final little polish. That's all it is. So you're talking about real subtleties in mastering. You're not talking about doing loads. David says, an exciter is a reverse compressor. It can help restore some of the dynamics. Used sparingly, not needing it is better. Yes, an exciter will do at least some of that. That is a great point, David. Anyway, we are 8 minutes over time. I hope this show has been good and useful to you. I hope you've enjoyed it. And we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks for your comments on the Red 5 mic. That is very helpful. And some of your suggestions as to what I could use it for are really good. I will take those definitely into account. I'm not going to bin it. I'll find sources I can use to record with, to use it to record. I'm losing the ability to complete sentences. It has been a very long day. I've been awake since 5 o'clock this morning, and it is now 1 o'clock the next morning, 10 past 1 nearly the next morning. So I've been up for like 21 hours more or less, and it's been a very, very busy day. So I'm pretty much done. But thanks everybody for coming tonight. I appreciate it very much. And I think I will play you out with the new theme music. And I will see you all on Wednesday for Songwriting Simplified. If that is your bag, go join me and Jonny over on the HST live streams channel. If this video has been good for you, this live stream has been good for you, then please do hit the like button. If you are not a subscriber to my channel, please hit the subscribe button, tick the notification bell, and make sure you are signed up for all notifications. That way, anytime I'm doing a live stream, anytime I put a video out, you will get a notification so that you are always in touch with what I'm doing. I also post in the community tab on my channel as well. So I may well be putting out some more stuff on there. So things like polls, basically just to see what you guys think about a certain thing. I'm going to be putting some of that stuff on there as well. So you'll get notifications of all of those kind of things as well. So stay in touch with those kind of things. I would really appreciate it. And I will see you all on Wednesday. Thanks for coming. Good night. I need to press this button. Good night, everyone.